transcending history and the world. A tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
This timeless place, I shall become whole once again.
Welcome to the fifth tale of Swords and Souls. Starting life as Soul Edge in the arcades more than 10 years back, Namco's iconic fighting game gained a somewhat notorious reputation due to its high level of difficulty and virtually impossible final stage. The series has evolved, becoming a bit more agreeable to casual players over the years, but the distinctive gameplay has been preserved, only improving with each new installment. The previous generation saw the release of two Soul Calibur games, with Soul Calibur II released on all major consoles, and Soul Calibur III released exclusively for the PlayStation 2. Soul Calibur IV, however, is the first installment released for next-gen consoles, and while exclusivity isn't strictly an issue here, loyal owners of the Nintendo Wii are getting shafted yet again, but if you own a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, you'll have the privilege of playing this excellently designed fighting game. Unlike a lot of fighter games, the Soul Calibur series has built its reputation around weapon-based martial arts combat instead of hand-to-hand martial arts. Any fighter game that's worth its weight in gasoline should always feature an impressive amount of moves and attacks. Soul Calibur IV delivers in this area, with basic high, mid, low, strong, medium, and weak attacks, blocking, and more combos than most gamers will know what to do with. Since most of the worthwhile moves require simultaneous and synchronized button pressing, mapping your controls to a configuration that fits your playing style is important if you want to survive some of the tougher fights. A new addition to the combat is armor destruction. If you block too much, your opponent can end up breaking off a piece of your armor, only making it easier to kill you. Each fighter specializes in a specific weapon, and the range of different styles fluctuates greatly depending on which character you choose. Alternatively, which fighter you choose is directly affected by whoever your opponent happens to be, and learning the best way to attack, guard against, and defeat each character in the game with your chosen character is an essential and surprisingly deep experience.
The only certainty is the flow of time.
Oh, and there's always been this weird story in the game, having something to do with two swords of ultimate power, and each character available is apparently on a quest to retrieve one of these two swords, or both, which is why they're all fighting each other. Obviously, the story in a fighting game is the least of any fighter fan's worries. Like a racing game, all you want to do is race. In Soul Calibur IV, all you want to do is fight, just like every other fighting game, and as long as that's solid, which it is, the overdramatic and largely cheesy story can't really be considered an actual flaw, because it's not that important to begin with.
Unfortunately, yes.
Of course, the major problem with most fighting games because of that is the fact that doing the same thing over and over again can start to get a little repetitive, and even veterans of the series had been hoping for more content than what we saw in past games. There's not as much reason to be concerned with Soul Calibur IV though, because the game offers 3 separate single-player modes to tackle. Obviously the default arcade mode, but there's also story mode and a brand new mode, the Tower of Lost Souls. The Tower of Lost Souls bears some resemblance to a circuit in a racing game, with the player choosing to ascend or descend the levels of the tower. Each level pits the player in some tough tag team battles against multiple opponents, rewarding successful completion of multiple levels with new equipment unlocks.
Don't you have any pride?
The equipment unlocks can be accessed through the game's character creation system. Soul Calibur IV offers full-featured character creation, allowing players to create and customize their own fighter, then take that fighter and throw down in any of the available modes, unlocking and purchasing new equipment along the way. Even though it's not as detailed as some of the character creation systems we've seen, involving a lot of snap-on parts, the full-featured aspect of the character creation adds loads of content and replay value. This is especially true now that Soul Calibur IV is the first game to feature competitive online capability. This simple but important addition of online multiplayer, combined with the character creation, makes Soul Calibur IV one of the most replayable fighting games in the current generation. You and a friend can still duke it out on the same screen, but if you feel like kicking the crap out of a stranger, you can hop online and see how good you really are.
You lose.
There you go.
Fans of the series should be relatively satisfied with the slightly refined combat system and returning characters. New players shouldn't have too much of a problem adjusting to the gameplay once they map their controls proper, especially since button mashing can still keep you alive. The new additions culminate to create more replay value than any other game in the series, and the challenging gameplay is still enough to keep the hardcore crowd satisfied, while remaining easy enough for anyone to pick up and have fun for the first time. If you're looking for a solid fighting game with deep combat and enougenough content to justify the price tag, then look no further than Soul Calibur IV.
罪を背負うべきは私。神よ、お許しください。
俺やお前のような存在は二度とこの世に生まれてくるべきではない。
Soul Calibur IV.